start with the play that set off all of the chaos. Everything else that we will talk about, there is one play that set off all of it, and it is this steal that Alyssa Thomas made on Nefessa Collier.
All right, get this. Absolute chaos just exploded across the WNBA after Nefessa Collier's brutal injury slammed right into a massive controversy, landing squarely on Commissioner Kathy Angelbert's desk. What started as a fiery debate over a late-game play instantly escalated into a full-blown league crisis, with everyone, from media pundits to angry fans, pointing fingers not only at the refs, but directly at Angelbert herself, for letting this unchecked, dangerous physicality run wild.
The reason this was not called a foul is because they said it's incidental contact after the play on the ball. With that explanation, incidental contact could also be, oh, you're going up for a shot, I go to block you, I block it clean, I don't touch your arm, I don't touch your body or anything, but then I knee you in the stomach after I block it. That's also incidental contact because I jumped off of one leg and then I decided to knee you in the stomach after I blocked.
But here's the kicker. Instead of calming anything down, her reaction actually just poured gasoline all over the fire, with reports painting her private outrage and public defensiveness as a full-blown tantrum. For the players and coaches, though, this isn't just about one foul or one game. No, this is about a disturbing pattern of silence, inaction, and dismissive leadership that, let me tell you, has been bubbling up all season. So now, the question hanging over the entire league is pretty simple. Can Angelbert actually restore any credibility? Or has the damage already gone way too far?
The biggest problem that I have with all of this is so many people are fighting the fact that Alyssa Thomas, it didn't seem like she did it on purpose. It doesn't matter. If I hear one more person say, well, she didn't do it on purpose, it doesn't matter. For the most part, you guys, fouls across the board should never be on purpose.
So, it all kicked off with one decisive moment in the Minnesota Lynx versus Phoenix Mercury matchup. The game was hanging in the balance, right? Nefessa Collier is absolutely flying down the court, eyes locked on the basket, when bam! Here comes Alyssa Thomas, sliding across her path, ripping the ball loose. At first, it looked like a perfectly executed defensive play, a clean strip, quick transition, easy layup on the other end. The Mercury are celebrating, the scoreboard swings their way, and the referee? They just wave it off, business as usual, but for Kier and the Lynx, this was the beginning of a nightmare. See, Thomas did get her hand on the ball first, but her body angle created this unavoidable collision course, Collier sprinting full speed one way while Thomas barrels across her lane from the side. Their paths crossed at the absolute worst possible moment. Collier's leg gets tangled against Thomas's frame and, in an instant, her stride is completely broken. She just crumples to the floor, clutching her ankle in agony.
Alyssa Thomas is running across Fee. Fee's going this way, Alyssa Thomas is going this way. Fee is in full motion. You can even see, again, with this screenshot, the angle in which Fee's body is going. She is going full speed in one direction. She is running in one direction, and Alyssa Thomas cuts her off in that regard. The foul happens, in my opinion, after she tips the ball.
The entire crowd went completely silent. What, at full speed, looked like maybe incidental contact, now, in slow motion, felt like a careening, dangerous sequence. But here's the thing, the officials, they didn't even flinch. They actually deemed the play legal, straight up labeling the aftermath as incidental contact. Their explanation? Thomas made a legitimate play on the ball, and whatever happened after that was just, the natural chaos of basketball.
Not ruled a foul. And I am dumbfounded by the amount of people online, even the amount of professionals online who are saying that this is no.
Now, that ruling left fans and analysts absolutely stunned, because for anyone watching Kier's brutal fall, it sure didn't look like some accidental, consequence-free bump. No, it screamed negligence. And this, my friends, is where the frustration really boiled over. See, incidental contact is supposed to apply when a defender challenges a shot, reaches for a loose ball, or makes a normal, non-sliding move. But what happens when the collision is literally unavoidable from the very start? Could Thomas really have gotten that steal without completely cutting across Kier's stride? That question split the entire basketball world right down the middle. Some swore it was a brilliant defensive stop. Others? They saw it as reckless, outright dangerous, and a glaring example of the WNBA's consistent officiating problem.
I don't care if Alyssa Thomas premeditated this foul 6 months ago, or she accidentally did it and called Nefessa Collier after the game and apologized to her and told her that it was an accident. It doesn't matter when it comes to calling a foul. It truly doesn't matter. So I'm also tired of the well, it's not a dirty, but it doesn't matter. Nefessa Collier had nowhere to go. I don't know what the referees thought she could do when she is running full speed. Her leg is in motion and her leg gets caught on Alyssa Thomas's body because Alyssa Thomas is bullying her way through Nefessa Collier's.
And for Collier, man, the timing could not have been worse. She's not just a star for the Lynx, she's one of the faces of the entire league, an MVP candidate whose health directly impacts postseason credibility. So, seeing her limp off the court while officials just shrugged off the play ignited a massive wave of outrage. This wasn't just about an injury, guys. It was about the much, much bigger picture.
NBA referee's official account, they tweeted this. They said this is not a foul. Thomas legally gets to the ball and knocks the ball loose prior to any contact. The leg-to-leg contact is incidental once the ball is clearly loose. This was correctly judged in real time as a no call, as were the subsequent technical fouls. I'm floored by.
Think about it. If a top player like Collier isn't protected in the postseason, what does that actually say about the league's priorities? That's precisely why this play became so much more than just a highlight or a missed call. It instantly became a flashpoint, and while fans were still duking it out online, the real fallout was just beginning. Because if the referee's initial decision set tempers ablaze, what came next turned that fire into an absolute inferno.
The league taken to ensure the fair and consistent calls are being made throughout these high stake playoff games.
Yeah, I think, Christina, I smiled when you started that question because I don't think it's just this year. I think every year everybody complains about officiating, by the way, in every sport. So, but that means people care. They care so much. And we hear the concerns from the ecosystem in our league, whether it's fans, players, coaches. We take it seriously. We understand there's frustration. Our game is constantly evolving. We just talked about the speed, talent, and physicality, and we recognize that.
Okay, so when the refs slapped that incidental contact label on the play, they probably thought they were just following the rulebook to a T. After all, the rules themselves say not every bump is a foul, and players will inevitably clash. But here's the problem, the critical question. Was Alyssa Thomas's steal truly unavoidable? Or did her angle of attack guarantee Nefessa Collier would get taken out in the process? That's the huge difference between a routine hustle play and a dangerous moment that can completely change a season. Look, basketball fans know contact is inevitable. Screens, drives, fast breaks, they all carry collision risk. But referees are taught to judge whether a player could have made the play without endangering their opponent. In this situation, Thomas reached cleanly, sure, but her body's momentum cut directly across Collier's stride. Collier wasn't standing still. She was in a full sprint, and once her leg clipped Thomas's torso, she had absolutely nowhere to go. That fall wasn't just incidental, it was practically built into the play's trajectory, and this is where the spirit of the rule truly comes in. If a defender is in a position where they cannot make a play without crashing into the offensive player, then by definition, it stops being incidental. Fans hammered this point home online, comparing it to a block where a defender swats the ball clean, but then lands with a knee straight into the shooter's chest. The ball might have been touched legally, but the aftermath is still illegal because of reckless positioning. Intent doesn't excuse outcome, especially when injuries are involved. What really infuriated so many was how quickly the league just dismissed those concerns. In slow motion, you could see Collier's body bend unnaturally as she hit the floor. Analysts replayed the clip frame by frame, showing her ankle twist under the entanglement's weight. For a player of Collier's caliber, someone essential not just to her team, but to the league's overall star power, this wasn't some small oversight. It was a glaring example of what happens when officiating refuses to account for player safety, and then came the perception problem. Just imagine if this had happened to an NBA superstar, right? Fans on social media asked, would the league still call it incidental if it were LeBron James, Steph Curry, or Luka Doncic sprawled out on the hardwood? Would referees just explain away their injuries as part of the game? The overwhelming belief, no. And that comparison only deepened the sense of unfairness in how the WNBA enforces its rules. The point wasn't just about Thomas or Collier, it was about what kind of standard the league wanted to uphold. Should rules bend to justify missed calls, or should they protect the stars who actually carry the game forward? That's why the outrage kept building, and while fans were still battling it out online, the next development pushed this whole controversy from a simple rulebook debate into a full-blown spectacle. Because once the NBA referee's official account weighed in, the conversation absolutely exploded. If the play itself had already divided fans, the firestorm hit an entirely new level when the NBA referee's official account, in a rare move, decided to publicly defend the call, declaring Alyssa Thomas's steal was clean. The ball was dislodged legally, and any contact afterward was incidental. To the referees, this was an open and shut case. The kind of moment that didn't even deserve a whistle. But to the wider basketball community, that statement landed like a grenade. The frustration wasn't just about what the referees said, it was about how they said it. By confidently declaring the no call was correct, the league's own officiating body essentially told players, coaches, and fans that their eyes were lying to them. People saw Collier's ankle buckle. They saw her body collapsing in pain. And yet, the ruling suggested none of it mattered, because the ball had already been touched first. It felt dismissive. And worse, it felt like the referees were hiding behind technicalities instead of addressing the reality of player safety. This is where perception mattered most. That statement instantly raised the question, would this same explanation apply if the injured player were a global NBA superstar? If Steph Curry twisted his ankle after being undercut on a fast break, would fans be told it was incidental contact? If LeBron James was bulldozed out of high? The consensus among fans and media was crystal clear: the rules would be enforced differently if the names were bigger, if the stakes were higher, and if the league couldn't afford to lose its stars, and that double standard fueled the outrage even further. It also exposed the fragile relationship between referees and credibility. Fans are used to controversial calls, but when an official account takes sides so firmly, it becomes a public relations nightmare. Instead of calming the storm, the referees just added fuel to the fire. Every replay circulating online now had a new caption: "The referees think this isn't a foul." That single tweet hardened positions, pushed players and coaches to speak out, and gave fans the sense that the system was rigged to protect officials rather than players, and the timing only made things worse. This wasn't a meaningless regular season game. It was the postseason, with championship implications. One of the league's brightest stars had just gone down. And instead of empathy or nuance, the response was to validate the very call that had so many outraged. For many, it symbolized everything wrong with WNBA officiating this season: inconsistency, defensiveness, and a severe lack of accountability. And the backlash wasn't just online chatter. On the court, one coach wasn't about to let the moment pass quietly. In fact, her response turned the simmering anger into a spectacle nobody could ignore, because the referees may have defended their call, but Cheryl Reeve was absolutely not about to stay silent. Her eruption on the sideline took the controversy to a whole new level. When the referees doubled down on their no call, the Minnesota Lynx's fiery head coach Cheryl Reeve reached her breaking point. This wasn't some measured complaint, or a routine argument over a whistle. This was an eruption, one that instantly became one of the most talked about moments of the WNBA season. As Alyssa Thomas ran the ball in for a layup, Reeve turned her fury directly toward the officials, storming up the sideline with an intensity that stunned even seasoned viewers. She wasn't just angry, she was relentless, chasing down referees, pointing furiously, making it crystal clear she considered the missed foul an outright injustice. Players and assistants scrambled to intervene. Natasha Heedman tried to hold her back. Teammates stepped between Reeve and the officials. Even opposing players watched in shock as the usually composed coach lost all restraint. One moment particularly stood out. Dorka Juhas grabbed a towel and tried to shield Reeve's mouth from the cameras, worried her string of curses would draw even harsher punishment. The image of a coach being physically restrained by her own team was dramatic enough, but it symbolized the boiling frustration that had been building all season. Reeve's meltdown wasn't just about Collier's injury, or one controversial play. It was the culmination of months of tension. Coaches around the league had been voicing their frustration with officiating inconsistencies. Players had spoken up about how physical the games had become. And fans had grown tired of watching stars go down without what they felt was adequate protection from referees. Reeve's sideline explosion became the visual representation of all that bottled up anger. The referees, of course, had no choice but to eject her. But even as security guided her out, Reeve didn't back down. She turned her frustration toward the crowd, exchanging heated words with fans on her way out of the arena. Cameras caught her shouting profanities, her voice breaking through the. For many viewers, this was shocking, a head coach completely unhinged in front of a national audience. For others, it was cathartic, as if Reeve was voicing the collective outrage so many around the league had been feeling for months. What made this outburst resonate even more was the fact that Reeve is no ordinary coach. She's one of the most respected figures in the league, a multiple-time champion, and the leader of one of the most successful franchises in WNBA history. When someone with her track record and stature loses control like this, it forces people to take notice. This wasn't a rookie coach looking for attention. This was a seasoned veteran demanding accountability. Still, the optics were unavoidable. The league now faced a crisis.